Welcome to the Hiab Lift series. We're at Hiab's National Support Centre and our subject today is Hiab's new service, HiConnect. My guest is Jim Walliser and he's our loader crane product manager, so he can tell us all about this new service. So welcome to the Hiab Lift Series studio, Jim. Pleasure to have you with us.
Good to be here.
Let me get straight to the point then. Hiab's new HiConnect service. Tell me a little bit about it. What is it exactly?
HiConnect is a web-based portal. Provides a live data connection between the cranes and any connected device you have, whether it's your cell phone or your laptop. Gives you all the data that's in the crane and puts it at your fingertips.
Fantastic. So essentially, HiConnect enables you to the customer, shall we say, to connect to his equipment and view information about that equipment on his laptop or on his phone.
Yeah, any crane that we hook up with HiConnect is always pushing out data. So any of the safety service counters, any of that stuff, hours of use can all be pushed. You can all look at it on the web, on your phone or on your laptop. You can view all the stuff that Hiab can do.
So let's imagine that I was an equipment owner. Essentially summarize how the service as a whole would benefit me.
Basically, it'll keep track of your hours of service. It'll keep track of the usability. Is it efficient? You have 5 trucks at one location. How much are they being used? Maybe you want to move that because another location is much busier. So it'll tell you your hours of service. What percentage of crane capacity is being used. So maybe you have too small of a crane or too big of a crane at a particular location, which might make you switch locations with those trucks, and how efficient your operators are being. So maybe, one set of operators, they're only on site for 15 minutes delivering their product on average, and another location is taking 45. So maybe you would look at that and see what's the difference between those two crews. So you can make all those kinds of, comparisons and contrasts because you have all the data coming to you of exactly what's going on.
So you mentioned a little bit about service counters and things like that. So you can actually use the system to review where you're at in terms of service status, or does the system do things automatically, like send you messages and things like that?
It can send you messages. That's an option if you want to set that up, or you can just go in and look yourself and see where your fleet is. You can look at hours of use. You can look at how hard the equipment's been used. Are there any errors currently on any of the cranes? Our service team can look at that as well. So if an error pops up, we can look at it remotely and see what's going on. So anything like that.
So I just wanted to touch on that. That's interesting. So our service techs, Hiab service techs, can actually dial into it as well.
Yeah, so in the future, and honestly, future is now, actually, in this particular instance, we can look at the errors on your crane. If you're having a problem, say you got a wrench light, you can call us. Our tech can dial into your crane, look up your serial number, and see what errors you have. And then he can look at history or what that code means. And when he shows up on the job site, he can be prepared to fix that specific problem. So we can actually look at what the issue is before we dispatch the truck to the location.
So he's starting the diagnostic process before he's even arrived,
Absolutely.
essentially.
So we can look at what the problem would be and what the possible solutions could be, and we can make sure those parts are on his truck. And that way, when he heads out and gets to the job site, it's obviously his completion time should be much quicker, and he should be up and running much sooner, since he knows what the problem is before he leaves.
Tell me a little bit more about the safety aspect on it. You mentioned that it provides safety warnings and things. Specifically, what aspects of safety?
Yeah, so many of the things we're monitoring are such as jerky or rapid movements by the operator, how many times he hits the overload, for example, how fast he moves the leverage, whether he's doing it smoothly or lots of spikes, which obviously isn't good on the crane or the truck. So we're kind of keeping track, is the equipment used the way it's intended to be used, or is the operator a little abusive? So you can separate the good operators from the bad operators without spending the time of going out in the field and actually trying to observe them. which of course is very difficult. You could sit back in the office and just let the warnings come to you, and sort of observe how your fleet is being treated.
So tell me a bit more about how this system can help you manage the safety of your equipment.
Okay, well, a couple examples. When the crane is always monitoring the OLP system, the overload protection system, so it keeps track of how often the operator gets near or even over capacity, keeps records of that, keeps records of how often and how much of the time, so percentage of the time, even how much the crane is loaded, and if he tries to exceed the capacity, and the jerky movements too. So if the operator is good at maybe staying under the capacity, but he's just a very not a smooth operator, so it'll keep track of how many spikes the crane is also seeing, which is hard on your equipment and may shorten its life, or may even just drop the load he's trying to handle. So it differentiates between a very smooth operator and an operator who's maybe not treating the equipment so well. So it helps that. The system also ties into our other safety systems that we already have on board, and makes them even more functional by allowing you to keep track of those messages, such as did you drive away with the outriggers maybe not tucked in all the way, or was the boom not fully in the rest, or is the grease bucket empty? All those things are being kept track of and stored in the computer, so you can see how these things happen. And very often, once in a great while, which operators are not really paying attention, or maybe doing a good job of monitoring their equipment.
And did you say something about the grease system?
Yeah, so we were monitoring many things, obviously, but some of the most important things to us is that the crane is well maintained. So one of the things that we're monitoring is, we have automatic grease systems on our trucks and our cranes, but obviously, if you don't fill the grease bucket, the system can't work, if it doesn't have any grease. So one of the biggest things we've noticed is many of the, operators don't pay attention to whether the crane is out of grease. And the system will actually, you can choose to set up email alerts if you like, that when it's out of grease, it'll actually tell you, or a fleet manager or whoever you destined for that email that, hey, unit such and such is actually out of grease and, needs to have the grease bucket refilled. So very simple things like that we can automate and just make routine, so you don't have to physically walk your fleet every day. The fleet will actually tell you what's going on.
So the system is live monitoring all those features, all those functions, and then if there's an issue at all, it's sending a warning to the system, and if necessary, if I understood you right, it actually pushes out a text message or an email to the fleet manager.
So when we set up your web portal, we can help you with deciding what particular warnings are most important to you, and which ones you'd like to be alerted to. So you can either go in and look up the alerts yourself, or we can choose that, hey, if this alert, if he ever drives away from a job site with the boom not in the rest, I want to be notified immediately, or this fleet manager wants to be notified immediately. So we can help you set up those warnings to where an email will be shot out, or whatever, or you can just leave it in the system. But you can choose to have any alert sent out every time it occurs. Or
that's another interesting point, just as you mentioned there. So the system can be kind of custom set up how you like it to be, sending you the messages you want and showing the information that you want. Is that so?
Right. So you can choose, depending on your email inbox, how many emails you'd like to have and how big your fleet is as well.
Yeah.
You can choose to have, every alert come to you. If you really want to be, hands-on, or maybe you say, no, I don't want the alerts to come to me. I'll go look once a week myself and sort of assess each driver, a different way. So you can, do either or both, or maybe one of your fleet managers wants to do it one way and another one wants to do it another way. So it can be customized like that.
So is it fair to say that you could actually assess operator standards within the company, maybe even compare different operators, etc.?
Yeah, one of the best features of HiConnect, you have a fleet, even if it's 10 or 12 trucks or hundreds of trucks, you can look at your fleet specifically and look at how trucks in one area or cranes in one area are operating both efficiency and from a performance point of view, how much of the capacity is being used, how often are they being used, and you can look at all that, compare and contrast one area or one particular person against another group, as deep or as vague as you want to make the comparisons. All that data is going to be available to you.
And what about location? Of course, these remote connective pieces of equipment these days usually have some sort of GPS system. Is HiConnect connected to a
Yeah,
GPS
absolutely.
system?
You can do GPS with Hiab. It'll tell you, where the trucks went, how many minutes they were running, the PTO was engaged at that location, and so how long did it take them to deliver at each delivery point, and of course you can see how long the truck was parked there, and where it was parked, and where it moved to, and what route it took, everything.
So while you go on to your portal, to the interface, you can literally see where a specific unit is while looking at the specific data for that unit.
Right. So you could track, for example, if a customer called you and wanted to know, how close are you to my delivery? My guys are waiting. You could literally look to see if the truck was currently going down the highway or maybe stuck on the last job, where you might want to call the driver and ask him, are you going to be a little late? Or, or you could see, hey, it's, getting off the off ramp right now. So you could actually inquire that without having to contact your operator. You could just look and see where the crane is currently at.
Okay, so you can see where it is, and you can also tell whether the crane's lifting or not.
Correct. So you can tell whether the crane is just going down the road with no other functions, or you can tell what's currently being used, what's going on. If he has a wrench light, maybe he's, at a job site and stuck. Something's not working or something. Yeah. Or he's sitting there idle and not doing anything. You can check all those things.
So ultimately, if you get that call from one of your, a company's customers saying, what's happening, how's the job going, you can say, well, he's on site and he's done so many lifts.
Yeah. So you can look. Yeah, you can look at the, if the main office is calling and saying, hey, you're not at my job site, maybe you look up with GPS and say, actually, he just arrived. The crane is set up now and he's delivering right now.
Let's go back to the scenario. I'm an equipment owner and have a fleet of crane trucks. And so how do I get HiConnect installed onto my cranes and my equipment?
For the year 2020 and forward, all the Hiab cranes are coming with the hardware pre-installed from the factory. So when you purchase a new crane, the hardware will come with it. And then it's just a matter of us setting up you an account in the portal, so you have access to our web portal. And once that's done and the crane has power, you will get all the data. The premium service will all be included.
And what about all the equipment I have already in my fleet? Is it possible to get HiConnect fitted to them?
Yes, absolutely. We can do retrofit kits. So next time you do a Hiab service, or you have scheduled maintenance to be done on one of your cranes, you can mention that to our service team, and they can order you a kit. And the kit can be retrofit. It's a few $100s for the kit, and some a couple hours labor to hook it up and turn it on, and then it will appear in your web portal. So once you put the kit on and the service team hooks it up and powers it, it will automatically show up in your web portal and just be added to your fleet. So as cranes are being maintained, they can be added to your fleet.
So on all new equipment, HiConnect comes ready fitted and is included.
Yeah.
And on any current equipment, you can have it retrofitted for a cost of approximately.
Yeah, it's a couple $100. I mean, the kits are not expensive, and like I said, it's a couple hours labor. So if you schedule it in with your maintenance, so they don't have an extra service call just for that. Obviously, it would save you some money to do it at the same time, and then it would be added to your web portal each time you upfit a crane. So essentially, until you get your whole fleet in there.
So I'm getting now to the big question.
Okay.
How much does the HiConnect service cost?
Well, that's the best part. HiConnect service, the premium service, which has all the data, push downs, emails, everything, is all free. So it's free on the new equipment when you purchase the equipment, and then anytime you pay for a kit to be added to an old piece, it gets added into your equipment list, and that web service is also free. So you have to pay for the hardware either by buying a crane or by simply having a service team retrofit a kit. You have to pay for the kit. But once you pay for the hardware, the actual service is free.
So it's possible to have my entire fleet connected, and once connected, the service doesn't cost me a penny.
Correct.
It's completely free.
Completely free.
For how long?
About 2 years. So
okay.
With any equipment you buy or any equipment you retrofit, we're giving you the premium service for free.
Okay, and you say premium service. So is there another service?
Yeah, so basically we have 2 levels of service, and we're giving you the premium for free. The premium gives you access to the email push downs, all the data, basically GPS tracking, hours of service, service counters, usage, basically everything. If you were at the end of 2 years to opt out, or however you want to look at it, then your access would be very basic.
How about users? Is there a limit to the number of users you can have?
No limit, obviously. So you're accessing the information to look at it. So there's no limit to how many people can go look at the data. And obviously, you can choose on your end to use as much or little of the data, and we can help you sort through that because there's a lot of data available. To how much of it you want to look at and which areas you'd like to focus on.
And say again, I own this large fleet and I have multiple branches. Can I break down the information so a specific branch manager can only see his units?
Yes, there is a structuring system in there where you can set up users structured. So in other words, if you want to, not only can you limit the access, you can decide, kind of a hierarchy of who gets to see what. So you can choose who gets to see all of the fleet, or who just gets to see the part they're responsible for.
Yeah, perfect. So that's a fantastic technology and really exciting to hear, and that's all ready to go now.
Yes.
So what about the future? Where's HiConnect going? Is there even more technologies to come with HiConnect?
Well, certainly, as we, put the field, this in the field and get more input from the customers and even look at it more ourselves, we're going to come up with new uses for the data. And I believe the customers will come up with more uses for the data. As the more equipment you can put in there, like retrofitting your old cranes, the more data you have, the more you can compare and contrast. How the equipment is being used. Are you putting the right size crane in the right geographical area? Maybe you want to move some trucks around based on what you learn over a couple of years of data. You might rearrange your fleet a little bit. Are the cranes being used to their capacity, or maybe they're exceeding that capacity in some areas? So you need to, change, maybe buy a couple bigger cranes for some of the areas and move some of those other cranes to some of the smaller areas. So a lot of it's going to, the more data you gather, the more info you have, and the more efficient your fleet should become.
I can see the benefits down the line. Once your fleet's equipped with HiConnect, a year later you've got all this information that can tell you all sorts of efficiency data, etc.
Yeah, you can learn, who's the best group as far as delivering. Maybe some of the efficient practices. If a particular geographical area or a particular branch is doing a much better job of delivering more efficiently, maybe you go study what they're doing. It's just endless what you could learn with all this data.
Well, it sounds really exciting, like a fantastic new technology. I understand Hiab are the first to bring this technology to the industry, and we're looking forward to seeing how it changes how customers run their businesses.